Hey everybody, Trishna here. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I want to talk to you about something called soul or conscious leadership. And the reason why I want to talk to you guys about that is because that is one of the keys to living a very empowered and happy life. Life can be really distracting. There's so many things going on, and like I've talked about in the consumer mindset video, there's just a lot being advertised to us, and then in our own personal lives we always have a lot of things going on because we live, multi-faceted lives. And through all of that, all those distractions, it can be really easy to get swayed by things that don't really align with our personal goals or our personal life plan, and that slowly takes away from our personal empowerment. But if we focus on our soul or conscious leadership skills, then we can really start cutting through a lot of those distractions and start finding that clarity within us, because we're no longer focusing on things that are distracting us. So we can really focus on what we're looking for, what's on our plan. We can really feel more in tune with who we are and where we want to go. And again, that comes from really focusing on the soul leadership. So today we're going to talk about what soul conscious leadership is, what a soul conscious leader is, and what qualities they have so that you can start embodying it for yourself and living your life with a lot more purpose and more clarity and really feeling like you're empowered as you go through this life journey. So leadership is a term that in its traditional sense can really be attributed to almost, does tend to be attributed to almost anybody at any layer. So from somebody at a large corporate organization who maybe manages a small team, they can be seen or be called a leader. Sometimes even individual contributors who don't have a team under them but show typical leadership skills, people who can get things done, they tend to be called leaders as well. And then of course, if we're sticking with the organization analogies, CEOs who are innovative, or CEOs who just have the title of CEO, who are leading an entire corporation, they tend to also be called leaders. Leaders is really anybody who shows the traditional leadership skills, somebody who shows that they can get something done, or somebody who's very innovative, like for example Steve Jobs, and pushes the needle and moves society in a new direction, or takes them a step forward in their traditional area of expertise. So for example with Steve Jobs, it was in the IT industry, so his specific area of expertise. So that traditional definition of leadership really focuses on the action, the aggression, that kind of mentality, somebody who gets out there and does things and embodies more of those traits. And then in contrast, somebody who is not a leader is somebody who seems too passive, who sits and waits for things to come to them, who just gets lucky in life and seems to have everything just flow to them and everything just seems to be perfect. And in our society, we really focus on the aggressive go-getter as somebody who's a true leader, and we look at the person who's more passive as somebody who is a slacker or just lucky. We attribute more negative feelings and thoughts towards somebody who is able to draw things to them versus like go out and make things happen. A soul leader or a conscious leader isn't that typical aggressive type of personality. They can have some of those attributes, like it's important when you live in a physical world to be able to go out and do physical things and make physical progress. It's really important, but that's not all that they are. They are a balance of both sides of the aggressive, passive spectrum. They're in the middle, or they're in the middle and they know what side to slide on depending on what the situation entails. So they are somebody who can go out there and act, but they aren't somebody who will just go out there and act on their personal timeline and when it suits them and when they think they need to make some kind of personal deadline. They will also incorporate the more passive side, which is really understanding that there is an undercurrent or like an undertone to everything that goes on around us. There is a consciousness, there is a flow to the universe and our lives. And when you listen to that flow and are in tune with it, the timing is a lot more natural. And instead of having to go out and make things happen and push things and maybe ruffle some feathers in the process, you have a better timing, you meet more of the right people, you can have that draw while also acting. And then the other thing that it does is that, yes, like everything in our world is connected and we know that, like whenever we build the iPhone, like we're utilizing resources in China and they may not be treated well, and there's same with clothing, there is like a whole system that's going on, and somebody who's more conscious understands that whole system. They understand that like everything has its pluses and minuses, and there are problems in this system that we need to fix because it's really important that we help everybody on this planet. But a conscious soul type of leader, they understand that, but they also understand that on a very energetic level. They don't just see it as something on the surface, they feel it inside. And so whenever they make decisions, they're not making those decisions based off of a gut reaction, right? So whenever you have a traditional leader, they say, well, my gut told me to do this. And they think that they're employing some of the more passive balance in there, but they're actually doing what their gut tells them so that they can gain a personal benefit, or so that they can help maybe the group that they're focused on. But somebody who is more soul or conscious focused, they listen more to their intuition, and their intuition is not just about the gut, because the intuition is something that pulls in from everything, and because they're taking in the universal timing and also acting, they're able to pull from all of consciousness and make decisions that don't just benefit them and don't just benefit their group, but that have wider energetic consequences across the world for the better. So with that, one of the main differences between traditional leadership and soul leadership is that traditional leadership is a skill that, it's a skill set. You know, you're told you have leadership skills, or let's develop your leadership skills. And with soul leadership, yeah, there are skills to develop as well. It's just that soul leadership isn't just about embodying certain traits. It's also a way of life and a way of living, and a way of making decisions, a way of interacting with the physical world while also being true to the internal world. And because this is a way of life, that's why it's really important to start with yourself first and live a soul leadership type of life before you can really go out and be that soul leader for others. So a soul leader is somebody who is connected to everything and everyone by being connected to themselves. And so one of the ways to start living a more soul conscious leadership type of lifestyle is, I would recommend that throughout your day, as maybe you have a meeting at work, you may, or as you're working on something, or as you're reading some kind of text, or as you're studying, or if you're listening to a professor talk, you're probably getting these feelings or these thoughts about what's going on. So if you're in a meeting, or maybe right before a meeting, you may suddenly feel a kind of nervousness that you can't explain, that maybe doesn't feel good. Or maybe if you're going to go to an event, you might start feeling a kind of nervousness that you can't explain that does feel good, it feels exciting. Or you may be walking around and you have this weird feeling or this thought maybe about somebody that you hadn't thought about in a long time, and you see a scenario play out in your head that you may not really have paid attention to before, and so then it just disappears. Pay attention to those things and write them down, because that's you being connected to all of consciousness, but not really being aware of it, because we have all these thoughts throughout the day and we can't really focus on every single one. And so we tend to just let our thoughts and our feelings slip by, and we don't realize that there's a connection between what we're feeling and what we then experience afterwards. So I would recommend that to really be connected to all of consciousness, start paying more attention to the feelings that you have. And as you start putting forth the intention to notice this more, like notice these thoughts and feelings more, you will start to notice them more. And as you start noticing them and start writing them down, you will notice more and more your thoughts and your feelings. And one of the important parts about writing it down is that you can start seeing that there is like a correlation between what you're feeling and what ends up unfolding. So maybe you're really excited about a meeting, and then all of a sudden you get the sinking feeling and you don't know why, and you feel like tense, and you notice that you feel it in your chest and your throat, and you're just like, what is going on? Calm down. And you normally would just ignore it and just go forth. But maybe that meeting was supposed to go well, and then the key person doesn't show up, and you're supposed to present to like some bigwig, and then it all just falls apart. So writing it down helps you understand, helps show you that there is a correlation between that your subconscious is picking up on things that are about to happen, and that your subconscious is helping you connect with all of consciousness. And the more you start getting used to that, the more you start noticing that, the more you're able to anticipate things, plan for things, and react to things in the best way possible. Because if you know that I'm feeling really nervous about this meeting that I was excited about before, and I'm nervous about it, there may be something that's not going to pan out the way I want it to, you can start preparing yourself emotionally for that situation and be on top of it. And and as you start writing down this information, it won't just be a feeling that you get. You won't just feel tense. For example, you'll feel tense because you know that this person isn't going to show up. And so as you keep practicing this, you'll keep getting more information, and then that will allow you to plan in advance. So it's like if you have that meeting, you're feeling tense, you practice this so you know, okay, I think this person isn't going to show up. You can then use a time between the meeting to go ahead and reach out to the person, be like, are you still able to make it? Maybe they would have forgotten otherwise and you reminded them. If something came up, then you have a chance to move the meeting, you have a chance to get somebody else to step in, you have a chance to prepare for the meeting yourself and give the bigwig a heads up that, hey, this person can't make it. I'm aware of this. They told me for these reasons. It's really important that they not be here, but we still wanted to meet with you. So we're just going to go through the slides, give you an idea of what's going to go on. And then if you need more detail, we can work with that person and set up another meeting or answer your questions if you have anything specific that you would like to ask our subject matter expert. And as I say in almost every one of my videos, I recommend that you also meditate, because in your meditations you are allowing your thoughts to come to the surface, but you're not really judging them, and you're allowing them to be released, or you're just watching them just as they pass by and just seeing them as an observer. And your thoughts really want to come forth. They really want to tell you things. They want to share things. We live in this consciousness, and it really wants to be there to support you and love you, and so it wants to give you the information that would most be beneficial to you. And throughout our days, we tend to repress our thoughts and our emotions, and we try to fit in. But in your meditation, that's a time when that is an outlet for your thoughts and your feelings to come to the surface and make you aware of them, so you can, just understand where you're at and be able to deal with them and figure out the best plan of action. So that's why I really recommend meditating, because it allows those thoughts. It makes it easier for these thoughts and these feelings to come to your conscious level perception versus just staying in the subconscious, because we kind of push it down. And then, of course, always remember to be playful with your external environment. It is really good to sit down and meditate and focus on the internal, but you do live in a physical world. You do have a physical body because you came here to do physical things. And so it is important to also understand that the internal world is important, but so is the external. And if you focus too much on the external, understand that the external is important, but so is the internal. And be playful with it and just kind of enjoy the process of seeing what your thoughts are and how they play out, or how they work or how they don't work, and understand what your personal code is, because your thoughts are there and your emotions are there, but like I was saying in the beginning, it might just feel like I feel really stressed and it's right here. But eventually, as you focus on it, you'll maybe see images that will tell you why you're stressed and give you more details. You may hear words, you may suddenly know something, you may get some kind of feeling that is more specific and you can kind of follow it. Like, everybody has their own personal code or their own personal language that they can use to speak with their own internal selves. And so be playful. Don't judge what insights you get and how they pan out. Observe them and understand, did they work? Did they not work? Were they accurate? Were they not accurate? Because it's not so much about was it right or wrong, it's about how did you interpret it. And as you continue to practice, you'll be able to interpret it better and better, and it's really just about learning your personal language, and you learn that language by making observations, by writing it down, and writing down what you're feeling and what you're thinking and how you think it's going to play out, and then seeing how it actually played out. And if you're wondering, how is this going to make you live a more empowered life? Well, whenever you focus on yourself, you focus on your thoughts and your emotions, and you allow yourself to play with that and use that information to react in different ways than you maybe would have, to pre-plan for things, to prepare yourself emotionally for situations, you are basically cutting through all the clutter, because your thoughts are going to be things that are really the best for you, your life plan, and all of consciousness, the ones that rise up in those feelings. And so you're naturally cutting out what is unnecessary, because you're focusing on yourself internally and what is necessary for you. And as you become a lot clearer on your direction and what you want in your life, you will naturally start to feel a lot more empowered, because a lot of disempowerment comes from being confused, from being torn apart in different directions and really not knowing where you want to go. So empowerment comes with the clarity, and then also really focusing on yourself and tuning into who you are will naturally pull up those feelings of being empowered, because you're listening to your true inner self, and it's been screaming to be heard. And as it becomes heard, like, you will start to build a better bond with yourself, and feeling in tune with yourself just feels so good and amazing. Like, it's your true connection to who you are, your spirit side self. And like I always say, the physical and the spirit, it's really important to incorporate both, because you are both. And when there is a balance between the two, not just being overly aggressive and physical or being overly passive and spiritual, but really finding that middle ground between the two and exercising the one that makes the most sense in a given situation, but really embodying all aspects of who you are. When you really embody all of yourself and give attention to all of yourself and shine light on all of yourself and notice your darkness, which I don't really consider dark. I feel like it's also really empowering. That's a really empowering part of understanding who you are and being accepting of who you are. You really build that empowerment. And when you are your best self, the best version of yourself, you only have the best version of yourself to give others because that's who you are right now. And so you can really give the best to others, and that means that as you go forth as a leader in this world, you're able to be the best leader that you can and give your best to all of your people, your following, your tribe, or whatever it is, in all of consciousness. And if you step away from something that your true self really wants for the world, because your true core self, your spirit self, wants nothing but the best for absolutely everybody and anyone, no matter what they've ever done, good or bad. Your true self is unconditionally loving of yourself and also of everybody else. And so when you're connected to your true self and you're out there being a leader, as a leader, you have a lot of decisions you have to make. You have even more distractions out there than you did living in your own individual life. But when you're in tune with yourself and you feel empowered and you're your best self and you're getting your own personal clarity, as you have these decisions that you have to make, as you have all these distractions coming your way, you'll be able to tell inside whenever something doesn't feel right. And you'll be able to understand your personal code and language and understand why maybe it doesn't feel right and how you should react to it. And that will always keep you in line with doing what is absolutely the best for all of consciousness and everybody around you, and just all beings that are around here. And so that is really what will make you that conscious, that soul leader for yourself and also for everybody else as you go out into the world. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you guys in my next video.